You didn't fail because you were lazy. You didn't fail because you lacked discipline or talent or the right opportunity. You failed, if we can even call it that, because your brain was doing exactly what it was built to do. And here's the part nobody tells you. Your brain doesn't want you to grow. It wants you to survive. And to your nervous system, those two things are not the same. In the next 8 minutes, I want to show you the exact mechanisms your own mind uses to keep you exactly where you are, and why understanding them is the first step to escaping them. Your brain has one job above all others: keep you alive, not happy, not fulfilled, not exceptional, alive. To do that job well, it developed a system called the default mode, a neurological preference for the familiar, the predictable, the safe. Neuroscientists call this the path of least resistance. Psychologists call it the status quo bias. But in plain terms, it means this: every time you consider doing something new, something challenging, something that could change your life, your brain quietly, persistently, and very convincingly argues against it. This isn't weakness, it's engineering. For 200,000 years of human history, the unknown meant danger, the unfamiliar meant predators, the uncertain meant starvation. The brain that stayed put, stayed cautious, stayed small, that brain survived. The problem is you're not living in 200,000 BC, but your brain hasn't gotten that memo. So when you try to start the business, leave the job, have the hard conversation, build the new habit, your brain doesn't see ambition. It sees a threat, and it responds accordingly. There are 3 specific mechanisms your brain uses to maintain what psychologists call psychological homeostasis, a kind of mental thermostat that keeps you at your current level. The first is cognitive dissonance protection. When your actions contradict your beliefs about yourself, your brain creates discomfort. That discomfort is the signal to stop. If you believe, deep down, that people like you don't succeed at a high level, every step toward success will feel wrong, off, like you're pretending. Most people interpret that feeling as evidence they should stop. What it actually is evidence that growth is happening. The second mechanism is the negativity bias. Your brain is wired to weight negative experiences roughly 3 times more heavily than positive ones. One failure echoes louder than 10 wins. One criticism lingers longer than 100 compliments. This wasn't a design flaw, it was a survival feature. The ancestor who remembered the one time they nearly got eaten was more likely to survive than the one who only remembered the good days. But in the modern world, it means your brain is constantly compiling a case against you and presenting it to you as objective reality. The third mechanism, and perhaps the most insidious, is identity preservation. We all carry a story about who we are, what we're capable of, what kind of person we are. And your brain will go to extraordinary lengths to preserve that story, even when the story is limiting you. This is why people self-sabotage, not because they want to fail, but because success would require becoming someone they don't yet recognize as themselves. Change requires a new identity. And your brain treats identity change like a kind of death. Here's what most self-improvement content gets wrong. It tells you to push harder, to want it more, to discipline yourself into transformation. But willpower is a finite resource, and you're trying to use it to overpower a system that has been running since before language existed. That's not a fight you can win through force. What you can do is work with the architecture. Psychologist Carl Jung said it this way: until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The moment you recognize your brain's resistance as a mechanism, not a verdict, everything changes. When the voice says you're not ready, you don't argue with it, you acknowledge it. You say, I see you, I know what you're doing, and I'm moving forward anyway. When the discomfort of growth rises, you don't interpret it as a signal to stop. You interpret it as evidence that the system is working, that your edges are expanding. And when your identity starts to feel threatened by the person you're becoming, you don't retreat into who you were. You get curious about who you're becoming. This is the practice, not motivation, not hustle, awareness. Your brain is not your enemy. It's a very old, very cautious, very loyal protector, doing the only job it knows how to do. But you are not just a brain trying to survive. You are a person trying to live. And those two things require different strategies. The first step isn't changing your habits or your schedule or your environment. The first step is understanding the system you're working inside, because you cannot outrun a mechanism you don't know is running. If something in this video landed for you, sit with it. Not every idea needs to be acted on immediately. Some of them just need to be understood first. There's more where this came from. I'll see you in the next one.